Hello everybody. So this is not a full video on IMS. This video is intended as a reminder, something that I used to say back in 2022 when we had these recession fears. Recessions are good for IMS. If there is one stock that should not drop on recession fears, it is IMS. Their product is indispensable. People don't want to go without the product that IMS sells, point number one. And then point number two, it is cheaper. It is the cheapest alternative to the traditional healthcare system, which makes the product much more compelling from a cost standpoint compared to much of the competition. So before I go on these points and develop these points, let me just update you on the valuation. The valuation is now officially, we're quite close to the cheapest it's ever been. Again, remember, it was a 0.06 on an enterprise value over gross profit over revenue growth. That was the cheapest. We're almost there, right? If it drops to the low 20s, we'll be there with that level of revenue that we have now compared to what we had more than 2 years ago when I was covering the stock at around $6 to $10, depending on the season. Anyways, if you look at the drop has been precipitous. It's been, nothing but a bloodbath. If you look at the drop between February 19 and April 4, minus 62%. That's pretty darn nuts. But when we zoom out and we look at the SPAC moment, right? The moment then the SPAC, de-SPACed and then became a stock. So 5 years and a half ago, that stock has still beat the NASDAQ despite that insane drop of 62%. It is still ahead of the NASDAQ, which is pretty crazy to see. Remember, leading companies, they go through these drawdown. I believe the statistic for Amazon is an impressive one. It went through something like 80% plus drawdown over its entire history. Yes, it's a roller coaster that goes up, but it's got a lot of volatility and it's got a lot of declines followed by upsides. Anyways, this drop, in my view, though, is next level dumb. It's next level dumb. It's indexing at its finest. You sell everything, you sell the bucket. Why? Because point number one is that IMS is not impacted by the tariffs. Pharmaceuticals have been excluded. They are not included in the tariffs. Pharma is expensive in the US. That is the last thing that the administration wants to see, a rise in price. Therefore, they are not included in the tariffs, and I do not think they will ever be, because the US is getting charged already much more than any other country on pharma. I think they're safe from tariffs. So IMS is not impacted by tariffs, yet the stock has dropped because of tariff. And even if pharma was impacted by tariff, IMS sells generics that are made in facilities in the US for the most part. Sure, some ingredients could come from abroad, but when you have 79% gross margin, even if you double the cost of that ingredient for that one specific drug that comes from abroad, which by the way you wouldn't because the tariffs are not 100%, even if you increase that little input by say 20% if it comes from Europe, that's not going to be a business model changing thing in any way. Right? You're going to drop to 77% gross margin because a key ingredient came from Europe? Give me a break. This company is not impacted by tariffs. And what I hear a lot of people tell me in the comment section is, you don't understand anything about stocks. It's because of a recession. Stocks are dropping because the market is pricing a recession. Well, guess what? What got me interested in IMS in the first place was the fact that this stock was recession resistant, recession proof in my view. This is the one stock that should thrive during a recession, that should thrive when people are trying to save money. This product is stickier than a consumer staple, but this product is also a money saving product. It is a 10x innovation. It's an order of magnitude cheaper than the traditional pharmacy plus doctor plus insurance combo. And as a quote-unquote proof, no financial advice on this channel, but the most tangible proof, quote-unquote, that we can find of a product is it getting adopted? Are the sales up? The sales at HIMS are not only up, they've gone through an inflection point. They've grown faster in Q3 and Q4 of 24. The past 6 months, the sales have grown faster. If you look at the market share, both in terms of sales and both in terms of customers, it has accelerated. This company has a bigger market share than any other competitor. The competitors have only shrunk. Look at the market share on this chart. If you're looking at a recession and you're afraid that people are going to quit buying the product, it's important to note that most of this revenue is recurring. Your credit card is getting billed monthly. It takes effort for you to remove the prescription, and especially if you think there's going to be delays. There's no such thing as delaying your meds. If you have a small condition, a minor condition, you need to take that medication every day. Otherwise, the benefit that you've been getting are quickly going to go away. Those benefits are quickly going to stop. And so people need to take the pills and they need the refills. And if the refills don't come, you're in trouble. So let me go point by point. Key reasons. The key reasons why folks won't quit buying from HIMS in a recession. What are those key reasons to me? Key reason number one is that it's much cheaper, and much is the key word here. It's much cheaper than traditional pharmacy and doctor combo. The traditional way to get treated for a minor issue is to go see the doctor and then go to a separate pharmacy. 2 different entities, and oftentimes you involve your insurance, which is a third entity. I'll get to the insurance at the end of this video. But a savvy shopper may be able sometimes to potentially get it cheaper if they're aware of GoodRx. And in fact, if you go to the doctors have these GoodRx coupons that they give you because most consumers don't know about GoodRx. But the savvy shopper may potentially be able to get something slightly cheaper if they go through GoodRx, a traditional pharmacy, and they have a way to get access to a provider for free. And so that would be during your physical, assuming that you have a doctor who's available and who's free and who's going to give you a physical and then who's going to give you the attention you need to prescribe you what you need during a physical. What happens more often is that doctors are so busy that during the physical they'll be like, oh, well, you need something for your ED, let me refer you to the urologist. If a doctor says, let me refer you to the urologist, bad news. It's a $400 slap from that doctor if they say that. Anyways, the combo of a doctor plus RX is where HIMS shine, because that's where you're guaranteed not only to see a doctor, but you have your prescription. They don't charge you if the doctor says no, which is a huge innovation. It's a business model innovation. And if you look at the average cost of the medication, the monthly cost of the medication, plus the cost of the care is on average $56 a month per condition at HIMS. It is dirt cheap, knowing that most medication, if you go with cheapest generic, most of them are going to be, 25 to 35 in the first place. So I would argue perhaps 2/3 of that amount perhaps is for the med. 1/3 of that amount is to sponsor the doctor visit with a nurse practitioner or the MD. HIMS, of course, has more nurse practitioners than MD, but that's true for most clinics these days anyways. So the point number one is it's cheaper than traditional pharmacy and doctor combo unless very specific situations. But anyways, point number two. The product is very much essential. Very much essential. Let's imagine you got a 45-year-old, they got a little out of hand, a little overweight, and they're not happy with their wife anymore. Well, they need an ED drug pill, right? An ED drug pill can have a very positive effect, right? Do you think, they just save their marriage, guy is super happy, they're happy, you think they're going to quit the ED drugs? You think they're going to quit they're going to save the $56 a month in order to, save money and then go back to the unhappy state? Absolutely not. Think about hair loss. So hair loss drugs, 93% of my viewers are men. Men often don't care about losing hair. But what about women? There's a lot of women that lose hair. And it's very, very damaging to a woman. Women hate that. Do you think if a woman loses hair and she has hair loss drugs and it's working well with HIMS dermatology solution, hers with the hers website, do you think she's going to quit? Do you think she's going to stop taking that hair loss medication? Absolutely not, in my view. And I can go on for anxiety. Let's say you've had anxiety for years. All of a sudden, You go to HIMSS, they put you on Lexapro or whatever, something like that, and then boom, all of a sudden, you feel better, you don't feel depressed. Do you want to go back to the daily stress? Do you want to stop taking that pill? Same for weight loss drugs. Imagine you've been on an oral weight loss solution, the metformin plus bupropion solution, which starts at $79, I believe, for that one. $79 a month. Are you going to take the risk of quitting that drug? Do you want the weight back? Are you going to have the weight back? This is all very much recession resistant. These weight loss drugs have been designed so that people keep taking them. You know, I'm sure someday we'll have weight loss drugs that are permanent, but we don't have them for now. And so for now, this is the best we have. And people who have been losing money with GLPs or with oral solutions at HIMSS want to keep the weight off. I don't think there's such a thing as someone who was overweight, who became skinny again, who's like, hey, you know what? I really enjoyed being overweight. Let me save, $70 a month. Let me save $70 a month and I'll just be back overweight because it's a recession now. So I'm just going to get overweight again, not even taking into consideration things like how much money you save from a weight loss drug. Actually, there's been very serious studies that show that if you're on that, you buy way less food, you eat out way less. There's a lot of other benefits anyways. Moving on, what about pricing? And this is the last point, and this is a counterintuitive point, but nonetheless important, is that with HIMSS, because they don't accept insurance, they're able to give you the pricing up front. They're able to act like a cash clinic. And it's very tough to find a cash clinic. If you want to go to like a really nice hospital, it's really tough to get them to do it for cash, right? Sometimes you'll go to like a social center or something and you'll have a cash pay clinic. That's pricing certainty where you have cash pay. But most mainstream clinics don't do cash pay, or the first thing they want is your insurance. Well, insurance is great. It could cover it once in a while, right? But you don't have that pricing certainty. And if you use your insurance in the traditional healthcare system, it's nearly impossible to know exactly what your insurance will cover beforehand. Believe me, I've tried before doing that. You're dealing with codes, you're calling the company, you're giving them codes, you're being ping-ponged around between different specialists, different reps on the phone. Do you want to expand 2 hours to try to find out how much XYZ test, if requested at your physical, would cost, for example? I tried doing that. It was nearly impossible. At the end of the day, I was like, let me save my time. I'm just going to ask my doctor to do all of these tests and I'll gamble it. And if I have a $1,000 bill, I have a $1,000 bill. If I don't, I don't, right? Because I didn't really care because I was in that situation. But for some people, they care to know whether if they go get their physical and they go get all these tests, they care to know whether they're going to get a $1,000 bill or not. They care to know whether their insurance is going to cover it or not. And this is where HIMSS is shining, because HIMSS is telling you up front. HIMSS is telling you up front how much things are going to cost. Here's another problem when you pay with insurance. Insurance companies often hire pharmacists, stay-at-home pharmacists, typically remote jobs, virtual workers, virtual pharmacists, whose sole job is to either change the prescription given to you by the doctor, reduce the dosage. Change, reduce, and sometimes deny. They sometimes also deny it. That's the sole job of many of these pharmacists hired at insurance companies. So even if your insurance says, oh yeah, we cover that, you may find out 3 weeks, 4 weeks later that actually they're only covering, 75% of what was needed or something like that. The classic example, of course, that has been going viral over the past few months is the idea of the oncologist. You go see the oncologist, too bad you found out you have cancer. Hopefully an early stage cancer, and so the oncologist tells you, well, with 20 chemo, I think you're going to be really okay with that cancer. You caught it early. You're lucky. You caught your cancer early. It's going to be 20 chemo, and your odds of survival are like 90%. Okay, well, you're happy about that. The oncologist is happy about that. But then you may hear from your insurance about 2 weeks later, sorry, we're only covering 16 chemos. We think 16 chemos are enough. We think your doctor, we think Mr. Oncologist, Mrs. Oncologist, we think they're playing it too safe by giving you 20. We're really only going to pay for 16, and then you're going to get a $3,000 bill for the other chemos. The fact that HIMSS is transparent is a game changer in medicine, and there is also a room in the marketplace, in my view, for even a high-priced clinic that just thrives for telling you the prices up front. Sometimes clinics themselves are also unable to tell you the cost of an office visit. You need to see the doctor. Sometimes they're unable to tell you. They're unable to tell you because it depends on what the doctor does when they see you. And so what they often do is before you see the doctor, they charge you the max on your credit card, and then once you're done, you go talk to the secretary, and the secretary is like, oh, it looks like the doc has turned the clinic into XYZ type of visit, and now you pay less, right? They often have a tiered system. It's very tough at many clinics to even know how much it costs up front. Recession, if we are headed towards one, recession is gonna bring a need for certainty on pricing, for transparent pricing. This is what a company like HIMSS provides. And HIMSS, now with the launch of their Lancet, with the launch of their at-home blood testing, they're going to go after medium conditions. They're going to move on from just treating minor conditions. They're going to go after more medium conditions. And this company, in my view, is going to remain a recession-proof company. If there's a recession, this stock should do well. Anyways, that's just my view. This is not investment advice, not financial advice ever on this channel. This is only entertainment. I hope you are entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.